Okay. So, for any of those of you that have joined these trainings before, we told you that the validations were coming on the forms. They are here. So if you look at the forms in Docupace before, you wouldn't necessarily see all the red boxes around them. Those red boxes are now there. We are tweaking a couple of things. So if you see something off on the forms, definitely let us know. It could be something that maybe we missed or that something that we're working on and we can just let you know. But to go from there, I also want to clear up a misconception that we had. On the application, we were always saying if you've got that older couple that wants paper statements, that Schwab sets everything up paperless. That is not true. They set everybody up on paper. And if you put an email address on the application, then they will send an email to the client inviting them to log into the website and inviting them to sign up for paperless. That was a misconception on my part. I need to learn to read better sometimes. So with that, I'm just going to go right into the forms. So the advisory agreements, the Edge, Retirement Ally, um, Aspire agreements, those are all the same. Nothing has changed on those. With Schwab, if you do, if you open a Retirement Ally or an Aspire account, that wrap account, you will see this amendment to Schwab account agreement for advisor billing form in your work item. This is required. Without this, they cannot bill, and Schwab will NIGO the account. This form is simply a 2-page form. You just come down here to the second page and you just put your master rep code in here, and that's all you need on this form. IRA application. Again, here's that IA master rep number. Just get your rep number in there and then just go down and start answering, just start, excuse me, filling in your boxes. So what kind of an account are you opening? A contributory IRA, rollover IRA, a Roth? Before I mark anything here, I will let you know if you go to page 2, you do see some taxes down here on page 2, and you notice that there is no red boxes around here. Those taxes are only required if you are doing a Roth conversion. So if I mark rollover here and save my form, you're going to see that I still have nothing for these taxes. But if I come up here and mark Roth conversion, I then have taxes highlighted on page 2. So we've tried to build these validations to be very accommodating so that if you mark something, it's like a secondary validation that you need to now mark this. If you go to save the form, you think you're done, you save it, you get more red boxes. That's our secondary validations that we built into the forms. So if I just go up here and hit rollover, fill in your driver's license information, their employment. If you mark retired, nothing else is required. If you mark employed and do not mark anything else, it will come back with that secondary validation that you need to tell us what their employment is. If none of these fit, you can just mark other and type whatever they do. Construction, real estate, something, just whatever their title may be. And then it's also asking for their employer name and the employer's address. Your questions regarding if they work for a broker dealer or if they work for a company, if they work for like a broker dealer, yes. And then if it's yes, enter the company's name and the trading symbol if they are a publicly traded company. With Schwab, you have the ability to have not one, but two trusted contacts on the application. Again, not required, it is optional. Section 5, trading authorizations, all three of those are required. So if you mark one and try to save the form, it's going to come back and it's still going to have validations around those other two. So those are all required. Proxies, the only allowable thing for the proxies is the account holder. You will see a second question down here that says select one who should be sent informational non-voting copies. If you as the IA want informational copies, then mark here. Otherwise, you can just mark none or leave it blank. If you mark IA here, it will get changed to account holder because account holder is the only one that can vote the proxies. At the bottom of page 6, underneath the proxies, there is an objection to release information to issuers. So if you have that client that is very private, they don't want any of their information shared, you will want to mark here that the client objects to Schwab releasing their information. If you don't mark anything, it will default to no. Designation of bennies on this form. The bare minimum that Schwab wants to set up a Benny is a name, a date of birth, and a relationship. If the more information you give, the easier it will be to find that beneficiary should the time come. But again, the bare minimum is date of birth, relationship, and name. The form does not calculate portions. So if you put 50% here and 25% here, and nothing down below, the form will allow you to submit it. So just be mindful that you make sure your portions equal 100%. The other thing that I want to add here is that if you've got that one beneficiary that is insistent on having per stirpes listed for the beneficiaries, per stirpes is not an option on the application. So just above the beneficiary one here, it says, if you wish to indicate additional designation options, including but not limited to per stirpes or per capita designations, please skip this section and complete the Schwab IRA beneficiary designation form. And I'll show you that form here in just a second. This form will still, if you don't have something in here, it will stop you from sending it out for e-sign. So what I tell everybody is just put, primary 100%, C attached, and put spouse or child or something here, and then just, put a random date in here just to get that red to go away. And then if we go to the beneficiary designation form, and I apologize, guys, my Docupace has been running extremely slow. Again, you're going to put your master rep code in here. Sorry, I'm putting myself on do not disturb so my phone quits ringing. So you put your IA master here. It should populate the client's name and social security number, whatever you have in the folder, it's going to populate here. If we go down to section 4, this is where you're going to mark per stirpes or per capita. And then on each of the beneficiaries, you notice there's a question here, per stirpes per capita distribution. So if you mark per stirpes up here, you are not required to keep per stirpes on every single beneficiary. You have the ability to put per stirpes here, no here, yes here, however your beneficiaries want listed. And I use the example of myself. I have 6 children. And of those 6 children, 5 children have children. So 5 of my beneficiaries would be listed as per stirpes. My 6th beneficiary would not be because she doesn't have children. So that would be the perfect example here where you can mark some as per stirpe, some as not. And again, same information on this form. You're going to portion first name, last name, relationship, and date of birth. You will notice on the beneficiary designation form, you've got primary Benny, additional primary Benny, additional primary Benny, additional primary Benny. So you've got space on this form for 4 primary beneficiaries, and then page 5 starts the contingent beneficiaries. So be mindful if you're filling out the IRA designation of beneficiary form that you get them in the appropriate spot, because if you put the first Benny as 100% and then you go to the second Benny line and you put 50% and 50%, Schwab is going to look at this and go, your Benny is equal to 100%. So make sure that you get your contingent beneficiaries in the contingent beneficiary spot. Okay. The other thing, let me go back to the application here, something I did skip over. If you've got that client that goes by a nickname or a middle name or something to that effect, and you're used to doing that second name letter, right here on the application under the account holder information, there is a preferred name or alias that you can put that name right here so that you won't have to have that second name letter. So when that ACH comes in and the name on the check is Skip instead of Robert, or for me, Kathleen, or my name is Kathleen. So if I were to change this to Kathleen and my check came in as Katie, they would know I'm the same person, or Kathleen and Grace. They're going to know that's the same person. You don't need that second name letter. Same with if they, have a junior or senior behind their name and the bank account doesn't have that, or the bank account does have it and they don't want it on this account. Again, just put the preferred name here. And that takes care of needing that second name letter. Any questions on that? The next form I have here is the IRA distribution form. This form can be a little intimidating. It is 14 pages. It is used for multiple things. So again, you're going to put your IA master account number up here, going to tell us what kind of a qualified account we're doing. Is this a new distribution request? Is it a conversion to a Roth? Is it a required minimum distribution? What are we doing here? So then we go down the first on page 2. This is for income distribution. So if you're not doing an income distribution, skip this. Section 3 is your required minimum distribution. Section 4 is your distribution method. So if you want to transfer your assets to another Schwab account, you're going to put that here. If you are converting your IRA assets to a Roth IRA, that's going to be B. Section C, or number C, is if you want to have a check payable to you or to a third party. Keep going down. There's a section for wires. Section E is for electronic funds transfer or money link. Now, if you are just setting up the money link on this and that's all you're wanting to do, you don't want to take a distribution, you would hit money link transfer with ACH and then come down here, and it's number 2, implement new instructions with no distribution or contribution at this time. And then here for the banking instructions, you can just put on file, because you will have the money link form with this form, unless it was previously submitted. Section 5 is your frequency. So if it's going to be a one-time or a recurring, you're going to fill out section 5. And then you notice you have A, B, and C. A is the one-time, B is the recurring, C is a total distribution and close account. D is for contributions. Section 6 is your tax withholding. So whatever you want your federal and your state. And then we have that secondary validation around that state to where if you mark you do want federal, or excuse me, you do want state, then a red box will appear asking how much state withholding you want. I will tell you guys that with Schwab, a difference in Schwab from TD is with TD, you would be able to put the ACH on the account. And then when you would go in and do a distribution, you would be able to choose your own taxes. Unfortunately, that is not an option with Schwab. Schwab requires standing taxes on the account. So if you are setting up ACH and you want that outgoing ACH, you have to have standing taxes as well. So you can either do this IRA distribution form to get those standing taxes on it. Or if you're simply trying to put standing taxes on the account, they have this easy 2-page tax withholding election form that I tell everybody, if standing taxes is all you're doing, fill out this form. So you put your master account number up here, tell us what kind of an account it is, and go to page 2 and put your federal taxes and your state taxes, and this form is done. So again, if you're doing just the standing taxes, it's much easier to do the tax withholding election form. Transfer form, pretty easy. Again, validations around all the boxes. So what type of an account do we have? Where is it coming from? A phone number for that firm. If you have it, most of the time, if you don't have a phone number, I tell you, just look at the statement, take it right off the statement. The name on that account. Now you can take it word for word right off of the statement. Otherwise, if you know it's an IRA, FBO, the client's name, or client's name, traditional IRA, however you want to put it on here, as long as they can tell that it's the same account. The account number, and then the registration at the delivering firm. And then you've got sections 3, 4, 5, and 6. Section 3, full transfer, if it's coming from like a brokerage account, trust account, dividend reinvestment company. Section 4 is for CDs. Section 5 is for annuities. Section 6 is for those mutual fund transfers like American funds, principal funds. Now, the one thing with filling out Section 6, the only time you will fill out Section 6 for mutual fund transfer is if they have 4 or 5 funds in that account, and each of those funds have their own fund account number. That's the only time you're going to fill out Section 6. So if you've got an account at American Funds and there's one account number and all the funds have that same account number, you're just going to come up here in Section 3 and mark full transfer. Don't worry about filling out Section 6. We only want Section 6 if each fund has its own account number. Any questions on those? The next thing I'm going to build here is a trust account. The trust application looks a little different than TD's. There's a couple of areas in here that you may think need information that don't necessarily need information. So let me get this. Okay, so again, you've got that IA master rep number. There are 2 questions here about, is your firm or a principal employee or related person of your firm an owner or trustee of this trust, yes or no? And then if this one is yes, then there you've got the secondary question is it intended that this account be held, will hold assets belonging to persons or entities other than your firm, your firm's employee, or self, blah, 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 blah. Yes or no. Next, whether we're opening a new Schwab One account, or if we are converting an existing Schwab or Schwab One account to a trust account. So if you've got that client that comes in, they have an individual account, they say that they're putting everything into their trust, and they want to change their individual account to a trust, you can do that on this application. Their account number will stay the same. You just mark convert my existing Schwab or Schwab One account to a trust account, and then put put their individual account number right here on the existing Schwab account number line. And then what Schwab does is they actually convert that account to a trust account. Section 1 is, are we doing a Schwab One or a Schwab One with margin? Section 2 is, what type of trust are we opening here? Is it a revocable trust where all grantors, trustees, and current beneficiaries are the same individuals? Is it another type of a revocable trust? Is it irrevocable? Is it a testamentary trust? If you mark testamentary trust, the forms will then ask you for the deceased information. There is also, it's wanting to know if the original trust has been amended, yes or no, and has the original trust been restated, yes or no. Then you've got the full trust name. I named it Trust of I Don't Care. Your tax ID number, the date of the trust, and then the state that the trust was created in. Is the trust a 10% shareholder of a publicly traded company? Yes or no? If you mark yes, it will then ask for the company name and the symbol. Section 3, trustee information. This is the section that looks like it needs to be filled out, but it only needs filled out in certain instances. So this top half of section 3 is if you have an entity trustee. Example I use is Bank of America. Somebody has Bank of America as their trustee on their trust. You would fill out this section right here in section 3. It also asks, is the trustee also a grantor of the trust, yes or no? So if it's Bank of America, you're going to fill out this section, and then you're going to come down here where it says primary trustee entity agent. And if it's Bank of America, you are then going to put who is authorized for Bank of America to sign on behalf of Bank of America. If it is not an entity trustee, it's an individual, you are going to skip this section right here, and you're going to come down here to the primary trustee entity agent area. It's going to be an individual trustee. And then also the same question, is the trustee also a grantor of this trust, yes or no? Then you just start filling out their information. You need the same information on this as you would need on a regular application: their name, their date of birth, their social, their home address, phone number. If they have that email address, go ahead and put that email address in here. Their country of citizenship, country of legal residence, your driver's license information. So again, for that trustee, you need all the same information as if you were opening just a regular account for them. You've got the questions on whether or not they work for a broker dealer. They're the required by the 2 questions that are required by industry regulations. Sorry. There is another section down here that says to be completed if the above individual is a dual citizen, a non-resident, a non-US citizen, or non-US resident or bank client. So again, if you have that client that has a dual citizenship or a non-US citizen, you're going to fill out this section as well. Otherwise, this section could just be skipped. You've got trusted 1 and trusted 2 for that trustee. And then you've got your co-trustee section down here. Co-trustee is going to be the same validations as the first trustee. You notice there's no validations on the form right here. Those validations will appear if you mark anything under this co-trustee. So if I marked it's an individual trustee, now all of a sudden I've got my red information down here for that co-trustee. If we keep going down, you also have trusted contact 1, trusted contact 2 for that co-trustee. So you could potentially have 4 trusted contacts on an account if they so choose. Section 4 is grantor information. So if you marked up here that these trustees are not grantors of the trust, you will need to fill out section 4. If they are the grantors of the trust, you can skip this section altogether. Section 7, required information, source of funds in this account. So what funds were used to for the source of funding for this account? Was it salary, wages, savings, Social Security benefits, gifts, investment capital gains? You can mark other and put transfer in kind here, but we really want to know what source of funds was used for the original funding of the account. So again, transfer in kind is okay, but we prefer to know what it was originally. Top of page 12, purpose of the account. Why are they opening this account? Is it investing for trust assets, payment of trustee compensation, investing with pooled assets? Basically, what's the purpose of the account? Section 8 is for checking preferences. If you've got that client that wants to put that checking account to open a checking account and attach it to the brokerage account or to the advisory account, that's what section 8 is for. You can fill this out, but know that you also need the investor checking account form to go with the application if they are opening that bank account. Section 9, you've got those trading authorizations again that were the same as the other. The proxies look a little different on the trust application. Instead of having, account holder IA, you just got yes or no. I appoint my IA, or no, I do not appoint my IA. Here, no is the only option because, again, IAs cannot vote the proxies. You then have the my IA should or should not be sent informational copies. If you do not want those copies, go ahead and mark should not. Otherwise, if you don't mark anything on this, it will default to should not. And that is pretty much the trust application. Individual accounts. Doggone it. Sorry, guys. When you guys build a individual account with the Schwab forms, it automatically puts in the designation of beneficiary plan agreement. So if you do not want beneficiaries on here, you do not want to make this a TOD, just remove this form. The system I don't know if it's just specific to Schwab, but it started adding this form to all of our individual form bundles when we build them. So if you don't want it, just remove it. But this form is the same as that IRA designation of any form. You just use it on the non-qualified accounts. So you can come down here. This is a new plan. It's asking you for your registration type. If it is a joint, it will populate the second owner's information here as long as you have built both of them in your work item. If not, you'll have to add it. The form also asks, is this your primary residence? So if they have, maybe they are a snowbird and they, they live in Iowa, but winter in Florida or Arizona. If their Arizona address is on here, but that's not their primary residence, you will want to mark no and then tell us what the primary residence is. You've got that on here where you can mark per stirpes and per capita. And then the form is the same as the IRA designation of any form. Same information. You need the portion, name, relationship, and date of birth. The Schwab bond application. Again, you put your master rep number up here. I can't stress that enough. If the master rep number is not on your forms, it does delay processing at Schwab. You've got those 2 questions again about, is your firm an owner, executor, guardian, conservator, or guardianship of this account? Yes or no. Are we opening a Schwab 1 or Schwab 1 with margin? What is our account registration? Is it an individual, a joint, guardianship, custodial account? So custodial would be the UGMA, UTMAs. If you marked custodial, you then need to tell us what state and the age of termination, whether it's 18 or 21. Again, it will populate your client's information in here. Your 2 regulatory questions about whether they work for broker-dealer. You've got your trusted contact 1, trusted contact 2. If it is a joint account holder, you've got this joint account holder section. And this will also populate with the red fields. If you mark joint up in section 2 for the registration, you will then have validations around this area to make sure you get all the joint account owners information, excuse me. Then you've got your trusted 1 and trusted 2 for that joint person. Purpose of account and funding source for the account and purpose of the account, same as with the trust. What funded it and what is the purpose of the account? Section 7 is that checking preferences again. And again, just know if you mark this here and they are opening that checking account, you still need that Schwab 1 checking account form. Section 8 is the trading authorizations. Section 9 is those proxies, and again, it's account holder only. You've got that objection to release information, yes or no. And the one thing with the application for the Schwab 1 application, if you have up here, you marked a custodial account. Here in section 12, you can actually nominate the successor custodian right here in section 12. So if you're you're opening the account, you're the custodian, something should happen to you, you can nominate your successor custodian right here. And that would be one less thing that they would have to worry about later on. The other thing I want to show you that I did skip over, I apologize, on the designation of beneficiary plan agreement form, is that if any of your beneficiaries are minors, on the last page of this form, it asks you in section 7, directions of distribution assets to minor beneficiaries. You can either mark none of my designated beneficiaries are minors, or please transfer my minors assets to the custodial account at Schwab and use the person I nominate below as their guardian. Or section 3, I understand and accept that a court-appointed guardian may be appointed to manage the minor's assets. So if you've got that minor beneficiary on here, you can actually tell us right here on the form, who that guardian is. So I named, say, one of my grandchildren as my beneficiaries, and I can put Jimmy Dean Smith as guardian for Elena Camito. And that way, should something happen to me, they're going to go back at this form and they're going to go, oh, yeah, she appointed Jimmy as the guardian for Elena. Okay, so let's open the account with Jimmy's information. So that's, again, one less thing that whoever has to worry about should something happen to me as the account owner. Do you guys have any questions on that? If you have that inherited, somebody comes to you and says, my mother or my father died and I'm beneficiary, I need to open a beneficiary IRA. Actually, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it this way. When you get to the registration, if you type inherited, you will notice that 4 different types come up: organizational beneficiary, estate, individual, and trust. Make sure that if you are opening an inherited IRA, you pick the appropriate one, because each one of these have different applications. So the individual inherited IRA application is different than the trust inherited IRA application. So you will want to be very mindful to get the correct trust, or excuse me, the correct inherited application in here, because each one of them are different. If you have that simple or SEP IRA that you are opening, those do require additional forms. We have kind of created our own little forms grid to know which forms go with which applications. We would be happy to share that with you. Or otherwise, if you just want to say, call us and say, I'm opening a simple, what other forms do you need? And we can actually even give you the form number, the form name that is going to go with that form. Okay. Do you guys have any questions, concerns, comments? Need to see a form again? So I will add that the first few times that you guys do these forms, since they are different enough, I mean, before we were offering this because there was no validations or red boxes around the forms. But now I'm still going to throw it out there. The first 1 or 2 or 3 work items that you guys do, if you're just not certain with them because they are different enough from TD, and before you send them out or before you have the client sign them, you want us to take a look at it to make sure everything's filled out, feel free to give us a call. Any one of us will be able to walk through the forms real quickly and say, yep, all the information's here, or no, you're missing this, or this is wrong. We'd be happy to go through the forms just to make sure that we're not going to have any hiccups on the back end. I will also tell you that with one thing different, and I should have said this in the beginning, I apologize. One thing different with Schwab and TD is with TD, when you e-signed everything, it came directly to us for processing. If a correction needed to be made, generally we could make that on the form and then send it to TD. With Schwab, that is not an option. That's why we are also offering, if anything is missing or you want us to take a look at this form, let us know. Because once you e-sign a form with Schwab, what happens when that comes back in is one set of paperwork goes to Schwab and one set of paperwork comes to us. So Schwab is opening that account and working on that account at the same time we are. So you could actually see that account appear in Schwab. and be opened within 24 hours. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't come back and say, no, we're missing this, and we put a block on that account until we get our paperwork corrected. But just know that you could have a Schwab account number in as little as 24 to 48 hours instead of 3 or 4 days like it took with TD. And I know a lot of times with TD, we'd give you the account number, but it still wouldn't be opened in TD. When you see that account in Schwab, that account is opened unless we put a block on it. So that's why it's very important to get all the information and all of your rep numbers on that paperwork, especially if you're e-signing. Now, if you're wet signing it and something is missed, yes, we can add it to the form and then send it to Schwab. But e-signed, we cannot make any corrections on those forms at all. So any questions, comments, concerns? Or Michaela or Nicole, do either one of you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, just to add, voided checks or bank documentations always required with a money link. Make sure that you're always getting that submitted with those forms. For transfer forms, client statements always required. And then also, so Schwab is different than TD because they have those standing taxes on the account. So that's why with the qualified accounts, you have to submit every time you submit a money link and you request outgoing funds, you also have to submit either the IRA distribution form or the tax withholding election form to be able to get those standing taxes set up on the account. Otherwise, they will not set up the outgoing for the money link until they get one of those forms signed by the client. Those taxes then will be standing on the account. Now, with the money links that are set up at TD, those will transfer to Schwab and they will transfer with default taxes. So they'll transfer over with 10% federal and then whatever the state requirement is for that client state. So once the transition is complete as of 9/5, if that client wants, say, 0 and 0 and they were set up with 10 and 0, then you can either have them sign the IRA distribution form or the tax withholding election form and submit that to change their taxes that are standing on that money link that was transferred over from TD. But they will get transferred over with the default taxes. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? We got a quiet group today. If you guys have any additional questions, you can always give us a call. If you have questions regarding the transition, you can email info@brokersfinancial.com. If you sure that if you have your permanent rep codes that you're waiting until after waiting till September 5th to write new business, you would have had to request temporary rep codes to be able to write new business during this month with us. If you had requested temporary rep codes and are writing new business right now, and then after September 5th, you'll then have two different rep codes. For say Retirement Ally, you'll then have two different rep codes after September, after the transition is complete. We will then work on getting those rep codes merged, and then you'll only have one rep code for each of them, and we'll get those merged, and then you'll only have one. But in the meantime, you can just pick one of them to put on the forms. It doesn't matter which one that you use. So for a little bit, you'll have duplicate, or you'll have two rep codes for each.
So Michaela,
Yeah.
this is Sam. I have a question on our rep codes. I have like 5 rep codes. Are those temporary rep codes or are they the permanent going forward rep codes?
Who sent those to you? Did Tamara send those to you or did Derek send those to you?
I have the list up. I can check real quick.
Okay.
I don't believe Sam has temporary, but just a moment.
And then we got the list from Tamara of, the old TD TD accounts and the new accounts. How are can we double check after Labor Day? How do we double check?
So right now, if you were to log into Schwab, you would actually see those accounts in Schwab. They are shell accounts. There is nothing in them. But yes, after Labor Day on September 5th, you log into Schwab and all of your assets should be in all of those accounts. But if you go into Schwab right now, you will see all those accounts that Tamara sent you.
Yeah, the accounts from TD to Schwab, you'll see the shell accounts. Not all of them are in there yet. Some of the newer accounts you won't see yet, but they're just shell accounts. You can't do anything with those. Sam, I do have some, you and Melody have some that are split. I do see 3 split codes. I can send you the temporary ones that you would be able to write with right now. I can send you those. I can email those over.
We're just holding off.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I told everybody to hold off everything until Labor Day, except deposits.
Just know that you do have these codes. You can write business with these codes. And then after Labor Day, what will happen is that you would then have 2 sets of codes. And at some point later on in the month, we will merge those and let you know which one to use. So temporarily, you could potentially have two rep codes for Retirement Ally, 2 for Edge, 2 for each one of your splits. And just know that right now, it's just the temporary one that you can use. Your permanent one, when we say temporary ones, those were ones that were given for the transition. The permanent ones, Tamara, and I always want to pronounce her name Tamara. I don't know why. Tamara would have sent those to you. And for those of you that aren't sure if you got those, that email that Tamara sent you with a list of your converted account numbers. This is your TD account. This is your new Schwab account number. At the bottom of that email is your guys' rep numbers. And if you were to log in, if you were to log in today, those are the rep numbers that you would see in Schwab.
Okay, so what are we allowed to do in these 10 days, and what are we not to what are we to avoid doing? Are we supposed to just not do anything?
You can still send money out for clients. Like if a client calls in and says, I need a distribution from a TD account, you are still allowed to do that. You are still allowed to trade in TD. You can do all of that up until end of day on September 1st, Friday, September 1st.
You can do money in as well. So for the move monies for TD, you can do money. AC is as long as the move money is already set up. You can do ACH in, ACH out. You can trade until end of day September 1st. If there is any distributions that are like automatic distributions that your clients have set up that are like monthly set up to come out each month, if any of those are set to come out the 1st through the 5th, TD has advised that you go in and you manually process those. So what we have advised is that you wait and see if those have processed the 1st through the 5th. And if they have not processed, then go in and process them at Schwab after the transition on the 5th if they have not processed. TD is kind of the 1st through the 5th ones, they don't think that they will process. We kind of, just because of the transition, they're not 100%. They're kind of like 95% they won't process. So we're just advising, keep an eye on those. If they don't process them on the 5th at Schwab for the automatic ones only.
So if I receive a check, like let's say a rollover check that
Yep.
that can I send it in, or do I need
Ye-
to wait?
yes, for any checks that the client needs to send that are transfer checks, any checks that you receive or that a client needs to send in, transfers, anything that needs to go to TD, you can send it to TD. Make sure that the account number is on the check, the TD account number. Send it to TD. TD will receive that check and they will forward it to the Schwab account number and they'll send it to Schwab. They have the account number that is linked to that TD account. So as long as it's made out to TD with the TD account number, then they can link it and send it to that Schwab account. But if checks are made out to Schwab, then we don't know what will happen to those and there's confusion with those. So just make sure it's made out to TD and
Okay,
make sure it includes the account number.
so in other words, if we call in a 401k rollover with Fidelity, Fidelity sends the check to the client, we should tell Fidelity to make the check out to TD Ameritrade FBO client instead of Charles Schwab FBO client
If
until Labor Day.
Until
yes,
after the transition, and if TD receives anything after the transition, they will forward any checks for up to 90 days after transition.
Okay.
So they will still forward checks up to 90 days. So you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, the transition's over, TD got a check, what do we do? They'll still transfer them to Schwab up to 90 days after.
Okay, what about transfers out? Let's say I have you guys know how I work. So let's say I have an annuity, and the annuity, I need to transfer $100,000 out to the annuity. And so we put in the TD Ameritrade account number because that's what it is right now, and the transition happens. Will that transfer request still happen, or do I need to sign a new transfer doc?
As long as it's already in process, it should still get completed. Now, the TD won't accept any new forms though. So they can't send new forms until after the transition.
But it's the TD number, and now the money's in Charles Schwab. Will that still work?
it should because Schwab has the converted account numbers.
Okay.
So if the transition started, if the transfer out started before the transition,
Mhm.
it should still work. But otherwise, I mean, unless you need to get it out right now, I mean, we're talking a week. If they can wait a week to process that, great. Otherwise, if they need to process it now, it should still process. I will tell you that the last day for outgoing transfers to process is Friday. So as long as TD receives paperwork today, tomorrow for an outgoing transfer, it will be processed. If they receive outgoing paperwork like the 28th, 29th, it won't be processed until after
Well,
Labor Day.
what I'm talking about is, let's say for example, AIG. AIG does everything automatic now. They change
Yeah,
their computer system and it's all automatic. So I send in the electronic signatures and e-sign everything. It goes right through to AIG. I guess it's Corebridge now. So I still call it AIG. But so AIG gets the form, they pass suitability, they passed all that, and it automatically goes, let's say, next Tuesday to TD. And so now
it will
TD,
not get, yep. TD will, they'll take it, but it won't get processed until after Labor Day.
well, I don't care whether to process it. Do I need to sign new forms? So now
No.
it transitions to Charles Schwab, right? So now all the accounts are in Charles Schwab. The transfer form is in TD's name. And so will it still work, or do I need to sign, is it the up to 90 days still apply to that type of situation?
Um,
Do you understand
That-
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. And that may be something that we want to double check. And I'd be happy to do that unless Michaela wants to take over that. But yeah, I can definitely check on that. I would
Yeah.
think that the 90-day, the 90 days would still apply to that as well, but we can definitely double check on that for you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
There any other questions?
Well, if nobody has any other questions, we will go ahead and end. If you think of any, just give us a call. Otherwise, you can always email info@brokersfinancial.com and somebody will get back to you as soon as possible with the answer.
Thank you, Katie.
All right, no problem. Thank you guys. Let us know if you have any questions or concerns, okay? Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.